Did you get over here at once? This is no time for your foolishness. Follow you? Why should I do that? Otto! Dear.
What's up guys, Nukin here and welcome back to the channel. I am so excited. We're going to be talking about C-3PO, and not only that, I know this video is actually going to be a little bit late. There will probably be some other videos from some of the other game changers, but I'll be doing the YouTube premiere feature with you guys, so I'll be able to interact with you guys. If you're watching this right now, say hello. I think there's going to be, a chat. And also, if you're not watching it with me while it's premiered, you'll be able to go back and read the chat where people are asking questions and geeking out and nerding out about the golden god C-3PO himself. Crazy character, lots of faction tags. He looks really cool. He actually has Hermit Yoda-like qualities, 5 different uniques, 2 different Zetas, 2 different mechanics. So hopefully you guys all enjoy the video, and hopefully we got a lot of people to watch this anyways, even though it's gonna be a little bit late. Yep, I did not wake up early enough to do this on time. So let's get right into it. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed the video, and if you do, just like, share, and subscribe and enjoy yourself. So let's jump right into this video and start breaking down C-3PO's kit. This is the golden god himself. So he's an evasive support character that confuses foes and also strengthens his factions. He has a lot of tags with translation. Those are 2 new mechanics. He's a light side support, Galactic Republic, Rebel, Resistance, droid character, so a ton of different faction tags. He has a basic ability, a special ability, 5 different separate uniques, and 2 of those uniques have Zetas. We're going to cover the first 2 uniques because they are the Zetas. And so here's unique 1, Protocol Droid. So this unique is going to give C-3PO 20 flat speed, and while he's active, a bunch of these guys, Galactic Republic, Rebel, Resistance, and Ewok allies, are going to gain this new mechanic. It's called Translation. It's a new unique buff. It cannot be copied, and Translation lasts for 3 turns. So if they already had Translation and they use a special ability, it's going to go back up to that 3-turn expiration time. You can have a maximum of 3 stacks, and they gain this whenever they use their specials. Now, when C-3PO is defeated, all the stacks are going to expire, so that's going to happen, but it's going to be difficult to take out C-3PO. I believe he's going to be very sort of durable. Now, Translation is going to give beneficial effects based on the cumulative number of stacks. So here we go. 1 stack gain 30% max health. 2 stacks, you're going to also on top of that have 15% critical chance, and with 3 stacks, whenever C-3PO uses a basic ability, you're going to be able to decrease this character's cooldowns by 1. So very interesting. That's going to be nice. Here is the second unique that also has a Zeta ability. This is called Wait For Me. So C-3PO and R2-D2 are going to have some duo synergy. They're both going to have 10% evasion for each of their own stacks of translation. So we just talked about you can have a maximum of 3 stacks, so that's 30% evasion right there just from this. And also at the start of the encounter, both C-3PO and R2-D2 are going to gain translation for 3 turns, so they're going to start off with it right away. Now, when this is interesting as well, when there are no other allied combatants, C-3PO is going to escape from battle. That's just like Hermit Yoda. So this is the second character ever that has the conditional potential to actually escape and be reused in another battle. So this will probably come into play into raids. So now that we started talking about translation, and we'll also talk about confuse in just a few minutes, we're going to take a look at what translation looks like in the game. So that green buff on top of everyone's head is going to be called translation, and you can also see how many stacks of translation that character has. So now right now everyone on the team has translation. You can also see that there's multiple stacks on C-3PO, Kenobi, and Rex right now, that number on top of the buff. You're also going to briefly see on Dengar Confuse, which we'll talk about briefly, and that's going to be that other new mechanic that C-3PO brings to the table. So before we do that, let's briefly recap and take a look. So we talked about how many faction tags he has, and we talked about, you know, how you can run him on a Rex lead. You can also run him, because of all his faction tags, on a JTR team, on a droid team, on a rebel team, on a Galactic Republic team, because of all these faction tags. And so it's going to be very interesting, you know, where you're going to see C-3PO. You may, you know, see someone want to use him with rebels, and you may see someone else try and run him with, you know, the resistance, for example. So, and you know, if we get a clone rework with Galactic Republic, or if we get, you know, another droid or a droid rework, that'll be interesting as well. So this is a character that I think is going to have value over time. Now it says here the strengths labeled, you know, he works with multiple factions. We talked about that. He also has that translation mechanic, which we took a look at, which is going to help a bunch of characters, and that confuse mechanic, which we're going to talk about now, it's going to shut down enemies. It's going to be very powerful as well. So translation plus confuse plus a bunch of synergy makes this guy an interesting character that I think is going to, you know, be a character that you're going to want to gear up in Zeta for the long term. So now let's talk about confuse. So you can actually confuse enemies two different ways. The basic attack is one of them. It's called Baffling Trick. C-3PO is going to inflict confuse for 3 turns, has a maximum of 3 stacks, and that cannot be evaded. So when the target is already confused, the duration is going to reset. It's kind of like the opposite of translation in a way, and you're going to reduce that target's turn meter by 6% and an additional 3% for each stack of translation, specifically on C-3PO. So it actually also synergizes with translation. So what does confuse actually do? So just like translation, there are multiple stacks, and as you get more stacks, you're going to have different detrimental effects. So the first stack cannot gain buffs, so that's big. 2, cannot counter, assist, or gain bonus turn meter. Also awesome. Now specifically for raid bosses, they're going to have a reduced 30% counter chance, but they're not going to have the other portions of those abilities. And then lastly, when this character uses their basic ability, they're going to increase all of their cooldowns by 1 on the enemy characters. So that's also powerful. Now specifically for raid bosses, minus 50% defense, and also does not stack with defense down. So on raid bosses, you're going to do a lot more damage on those tankier enemies, so think like Darth Scion. The other way that C-3PO can confuse enemies is through his one and only special, oh my goodness, as a cooldown of 4. Now this is actually a really strong ability. He's going to inflict confuse twice, so 2 stacks on the target enemy for 3 turns. Then he's also going to gain potency up, which is going to help to land confuse, and then he's going to gain stealth for 2 turns. Then on top of that, he's going to give translation to another ally, and on top of that, he's going to call that ally that just gained translation and everyone else with translation to assist. So a big mass assist attack. Those attacks are going to deal a little bit less damage, dealing 50% less damage, but still very powerful ability. On top of that, he's calling himself to assist, so he's going to do his own basic, so that target should reach a maximum of 3 stacks if all of those stacks aren't resisted. I assume there's a potency tenacity check there. So now that we covered the basic and the special ability, let's take a look at some more gameplay. This is going to be a droid squad fighting off against a first order team. We have a few more uniques to cover. They don't have Zetas, but let's cover it together. So all allies are going to gain 10% defense penetration, so that's interesting. He can actually synergize with characters that aren't even with his faction because of that. Now each time a Galactic Republic or Ewok ally gains a different non-unique, non-protection buff, they will also gain 15% protection up for 2 turns, so it's going to make them more durable, and it does not stack with itself. Now also for each stack of translation that character has, the Galactic Republic allies are going to have an extra 10% defense penetration, and that's going to also be doubled for Ewoks. So this is a unique, really catering towards Galactic Republic and Ewoks, but basically also anyone, because any ally is going to get at least 10% defense penetration. Now his 4th unique is called Cyborg Relations. All allies are going to have 10% potency, so that's going to help everyone as well. Now this also specifically helps Rebels and Ewok allies. When they use their basic abilities, they're going to inflict expose on the target enemy for 2 turns, and that cannot be evaded. Also, for each extra stack of translation, Rebel allies have an extra 10% potency. That's also doubled for Ewoks, so more synergy there for everyone, and also specific extra synergy for Ewoks and Rebels. Woo, we made it to the final unique. Hallelujah. Oh man, I feel like I've been reading a novel to you guys. So last unique here, Fretful Mediators. So this has the same sort of similar trend. All allies are going to gain 10% critical damage. Specific synergy now here with Resistance and Ewok allies. When they use specials, they're going to inflict offense down on the target enemy for 2 turns. That seems very good. That cannot be evaded. And some translation synergy. Resistance allies are going to have 10% critical damage for each stack of translation, and that's going to be doubled for Ewoks. So very nice. Extra damage is always nice. Offense down is also quite powerful. So now let's take a look at a few extra battles and then wrap up the video. So here is a CLS Rebel squad. We talked about some Rebel synergy there, and here's C-3PO facing off against a Revan team. So very impressive that with the 2 new Rebel legendaries, with the old school Rebel legendaries, seems like we've brought up the power level of the Rebel squad to be able to more, be in line in competition against Revan. Here's another quick little few clips with an RJT droid squad. Now keep in mind that R2D2 is also a Rebel, and there's a bunch of resistance synergy. He's also labeled as a droid, so BB-8 has synergy with himself. So there's a lot of sort of dual mix synergy with C-3PO. There's a bunch of teams, and something that I wanted to point out is that there is not too much droid synergy on paper, so I don't foresee droids being kind of all of that, but I am very interested in looking at some Ewoks and C-3PO because they had a lot of doubled bonuses. I also think since there's a bunch of synergy with him just being on the team, you don't even need to share a faction tag with him. He has a bunch of synergy that it's not a lot, but 10% here, 10% there, defense penetration, critical damage, potency, it does add up, and just maybe throwing him on a random team that doesn't even share a faction tag with him whatsoever could also be unique and beneficial. I'm also on top of, on top of the Ewoks, I'm interested to see how he does and performs in the raid, because he does have some unique sort of minus counter chance and also being able to reduce the defense of raid bosses. So I'm interested to also take a look at that. So I'm going to wrap up the video here. What are your thoughts on C-3PO? Do you have an Ewok faction to kind of get him? It's going to require some 7-star Ewoks to get him all the way to the final star, but you can unlock him at 5 stars. The event starts in just a few days on Friday. Let me know your comments down below, and I'll see you guys all in my next video. Cheers.
The Force will be with you, always.